Hello everyone, it's Ingran here. I need to summarize a little bit on the 5th level's progress and to elaborate a little bit on our 5th and 6th levels development because I just realized that it was so different from the previous 4 levels development. Just allow me to briefly summarize a little bit in terms of the progress, and then I will elaborate on the scope of these 2 levels overall. First things, we completed the rough prototypes of the 2 main gameplays of the 5th level last week, and I just checked the build yesterday, right? And I was making the summary of our weekly progress today, right? The Dionysian slingshot shooting the zone's canaries. Sorry, I need to pronounce the English pronunciation more in terms of certain words here in zone, right? So we completed that gameplay, the slingshot, to shoot the zone's canaries, right? And we did a physics to connect the slingshot, and we developed distance grabbing the golden strings from the canaries which we need to collect to throw into the crucible. And the second main gameplay, the push and pull the crucible to make the Jade Berea suits. So that was pretty well done, and I just checked the build, the temperature related, the changes of the temperature related to the crucible in association with players' behavior, and the fire shape, the sizes changes associated with the player's behavior. So there is correlation between the fire size and the thermometer changes and with the player's behavior. So right, 3 factors influencing each other. And we completed that. We completed the slingshot gameplay. And then one of our programmers who is responsible for our connecting sequence of events, and then breaking down the stories and to connect the events, which we already done it in this way. We developed the gameplay, we connect the events, and then I just found out that we've been through a very hard time to the programmer who is responsible for that part, because it took a long time to sort out what's going on in the 5th level. And I'm very, very busy, and each of you knows that. I come to animation, I come to modeling, I come to rigging, I come to lighting, I come to prop, I come to lights, the UI, the AI, everything. So thanks for understanding. And right. So that I found out that we are giving a hard time because we did it like 10 days since I assigned the task to our programmer, but it seems like very hard to achieve. Then I realized I need to jump into the details of the script, and then I finished wrapping up the 6 levels script English translation, because I need to proofread, because that came to my mind, that came out of my mind, right? And then I realized that it is extremely complicated, and I didn't realize that, right? Why didn't I realize that? I will come to that part later. Is that from the 1st level to the 4th level, the sequence of events are in linear direction in terms of unfolding the stories, the sequence. For example, when we trigger Soul's animation, then we trigger the dialogue, then we trigger maybe the UI, so that we trigger things together, and there isn't a very complicated dialogue trees in terms of that, because there isn't a lot of options for the player to choose from the 1st to 4th level. That doesn't mean there isn't any options to choose, it just isn't that much. And then so it was the development process was pretty quick. We wrap up the gameplay, we connect the events to trigger the gameplay, and so that level is the rough prototype is in shape. So there is that. And in terms of the fourth level, it's a little bit we did a lot of particle effects, but that's still like linear development of the whole storyline. But it's when it comes to the fifth level, in the fifth level, the first gameplay, the first thing that a player needs to do is to throw the Papaveroes, to throw the Papaveroes into the crucible, and the player needs to check his or her Creatura Voluta. Creatura Voluta is a score, is a tool that a player uses to collect all the beings and creatures that the player gets in the world of Zone. And in the fourth level, players get the Creatura Voluta, the Papaveroes, and the player throw that part into the Creatura Voluta. And then in the fifth level, player will need to pull out the Creatura Voluta and to find out how the number of the Papaveroes that he or she collected in the fourth level. And if that doesn't meet the requirement, and he will need to go back, he or she needs to go back to the fourth level to redo the main gameplay to pierce the Papaveroes using the Wellspring Needles. And so there is a level loading change in this level, and that is one of the major concern, and that relates to a lot of like data and save points, and just a lot of things changes. And I didn't realize that was so complicated when I was writing the script, right? And when it comes to practice, it is very complicated. So that we're deciding on that. And for the gameplay, previously we did the gameplay just very straightforward. In the third level, we used the hammers to knock down the captives. You just knock down, and we just did the beat detection system. So it was like comparatively straightforward. Even though you need to do like back and forth testing and to polish, it's just very straightforward, the system itself. And then, say for the Dionysian slingshot gameplay, we need to first point at the zone's canaries, and we need to precisely in the VR world, and you detect the location, the coordinates of that is canary, and we use a slingshot, and which we did physics for the slingshot, that part. I don't know how to say it in English, that part. So we pull, what's that word? Anyway, you do this, and then you shoot the zone's canaries, and then we need to collect the golden strings from zone's canaries. So we did a distance grabbing when canaries falling on the surface of the river, right, the gorge, and it's just a lot of detailed connected to each other within one gameplay, not mentioning connecting one gameplay to another gameplay, to voiceover, to the dialogue system, to the UI when the UI comes out. It's just very and when to trigger the Mentrocardia, it was very complicated. And for the Crucible gameplay, we I think I just mentioned it, right? There are two factors associated with the player's performance. So player push and pull, the handles of the bellows. I think all of you saw some of the screenshots, right, in our weekly summary document. So pull and push, and there are certain factors affecting the performance, which is the fire size is burning on top of the crucible. And the thermometer, right? The thing to measure the temperature, and it was changing the bar. So that a lot of things are within that gameplay, and the player needs to use the blade to cut off the jade stone, the Leer jade stone, and to make it fall on in the jade barrier suit on that on top of the crucible. It was very complicated, and I didn't realize that. And I just realized that because I found out we are giving a very hard time to the programmer and who is responsible for this part. So that we decided to break it down into details. And we are gonna break them, the fourth level into 3 stages. My previous goal was to check the rough prototype of the whole level just with one shot, but it seems like we have to break it into tiny parts and to connect it together. The whole run time with one shot for the 5th level, if you're not going back to the 4th level, you have enough Papaveroes to throw into the Crucible, and you complete the slingshot shooting Zones Canaries gameplay with one shot, and you complete the Crucible gameplay with one shot. The whole run time of the 5th level should be around 30 to 40 minutes, I believe, in that length, right? The 6th level is extremely complicated, and I spent 3 days to sort it out. I wrote it myself. I spent 3 days to revisit the script, because it was a long time ago. I finished it like 3 years ago, 2020, right? 3 years ago. So I didn't realize that what I wrote until I revisited the script. That doesn't mean I didn't write it like carefully. I read it extremely carefully when I was writing it. But I spent a long time into the production, so that I kind of like forgot what I wrote, right? And when I revisit the 6th level, and the 6th level is very heavily on particle effects and physics, and we're gonna make that happen. How? Time will tell, and I'm very confident in our programmers and artists, like all of you, right? For this 6th level, we are in the phase of breaking it down, but we will break it down into very tiny details. There is one thing that I like to share. Previously, I think I didn't say anything about this part before, but I think it's time for me to elaborate a little bit. These in the 6th level, we are gonna formally introduce the 7 chapters of Zone's world. And to be honest, it is so-called like chapter because we mark it down as a visual novel, like a VR novel right now. But it's definitely beyond a normal game or normal like visual novel. It's definitely beyond that, because each level contains a totally different gameplay using totally different mechanics and systems. So that is, we have developed like 5 levels. It's like 5 games, 5 mini games connected together, right? And when I was writing the script, I wrote it with one shot, and I was fully immersed in the world of Zone. And in the 6th level, we are gonna formally introduce, because the Supreme Commander, the previous commander, Simeon, will gonna appear and will show player how Zone's world is divided into 7 sub-dimensions, and players can go beyond each dimension, but the 4 commanders within each cannot go out of that dimension, sub-dimension, and only player from the human Earth can break it down and to save the world of Zone. Well, that is kind of like an old thing, like save the world, but anyway, the world is waiting to be saved, and everybody knows what's going on in this world, right? So that in the 6th level, it's very complicated, because we're gonna tell the player the first chapter, which is the first sub-dimension of Zone, and there are 28 main characters in the world of Zone, and 4 in each, so 4 with 7, 28 characters. And the 4 supreme commanders appearing in the first sub-dimension world of Zone, the Soul, the Vast, the Eon, the Fia, the 4 are created based on my grandparents, my parents of my father and my mother, right? And each of the events were created based on true events, which when I was little, when I was tiny, right, I used the crucible and the bellow a lot, right? So that is the all the inspirations are coming from my true life events, right? And the vase came appearing in the 4th level, or was created based on my grandmother, and that's another story to tell. That's not the point in this video. I just wanted you to know that because I didn't intentionally to address small events like oh, I created this and I created that. That is not the intention of creation. I just created naturally, and all the things came into my mind all of a sudden. It just like with one shot. And I want to read you one Manchukuo in Chinese right now because I think it's time to. Which in the 5th level we Seoul needs to summon the Zong's Canaries, and Zong's Canaries. I wrote the Manchukuo. I wrote all the. I wrote. I think in the first chapter of Zong, I wrote 198 Manchukuo. Yes, all in poems, poems. How to say that in English? In Chinese, and then our translator translated into English. And here comes my favorite one. In the 5th level, right? In the 5th level, when the original Chinese version of summoning Zong's Canaries, called by Seoul, is 雀儿咏，雀儿幽，雀儿载天，宿梦游。金丝寒，金丝暖，金丝还在，雀儿还。Right. That is the original Manchukuo I wrote in Chinese, and I'm very excited. This is so beautiful, and I very excited. And all of these Manchukuos like wasn't intentionally planned. That is not intentionally planned. I just all of a sudden, then I feel like this is the feeling that we've gotten here, right? And our translator translated into excellent English, like excellent. I didn't recognize most of the words, but I want to briefly introduce a little bit of the Manchukuo of summoning Zong's Canaries. Enduring finches, carefree finches, soar the sky and retreats past the reveries. Yield strength, bomb and strength. Strong low upon your return from dreamland. Right, this is perfect translation. And right, that's how more stories came later. But what I mean is that all of those details were not strategic moves. It is just purely naturally created from my genes. So that let's hope we can create a beautiful world, and we already did. It is so beautiful. I just played the 5th level's prototype. It is so gorgeous. It's so gorgeous without R, right? And I can't wait to play the full game of the 5th level. And welcome to Jade Berea Suits.